Hi, Love Bug. Welcome to the Naked Yoga Podcast. This podcast is all about incorporating bits and pieces of yogic philosophy and spirituality into your everyday life. I'm your host, Nika Okoli, a graduate student at Columbia University's Spirituality Mind-Body Institute. I'm also a yoga and meditation instructor at a little studio called Core Power Yoga. You may have heard of it. My mission here is to help you nourish your mind, body, and spirit connection. Each podcast episode will begin with a guided meditation, followed by the core of the episode pairing a spiritual concept with science. Lastly, each episode will end with a mindful closure, providing you with actionable steps you can do after listening to deepen your mind, body, and spirit connection. So, without further ado, let's get right into today's episode. I am so excited. I'm actually recording this and it's 111. So let's take a look at what the angel number 111 means. So 111, intuition. Trust your gut, listen to your heart. I love that. And honestly, I think that is a great way to set up for today's meditation. We're going to be focusing on the heart chakra space as we're going to be talking about dating from like a spiritual and like yogic perspective. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you guys because I've been dating so much in New York City. And things have just been like super crazy. So I'm excited to kind of dial in and reconnect with our spiritual center. So without further ado, let's get into today's meditation. When you're ready, take a nice deep breath in and out. Inhale and exhale. Thrice more. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Last time. Inhale and exhale. Wonderful. Begin to sink into your seat. Maybe you're laying down, or maybe you're sitting up. Maybe you're in a position where you can't really sit down, but wherever you are, just take some time to begin to relax into your body. Allow your tongue to release from the roof of your mouth. Unclench your jaw, soften your shoulders, and just melt into your being. The heart space chakra is represented by the color green, and it's located in your heart space, right in the center of your chest. I invite you to begin to envision a green ball of light here. With every inhale, that green ball of light grows bigger. With every exhale, that green energy begins to flow throughout your body. Big breath in and out. Continue to breathe here. Inhale and exhale. And find a rhythm that seems natural and comfortable to you. When we think about our heart space chakra, we tend to think about love and romantic relationships. But I invite you now to think a little bit about yourself. Be selfish. Find a time in which you were able to open your heart and provide unconditional love. In Sanskrit, bhakti is the word for that unconditional and selfless love. I invite you to join me in a little chant. Om Bhakti Yam, Om Bhakti Yam, Om Bhakti Yam, Om Bhakti Yam. And continue in your own time, channeling the Om, that universal knowledge and wisdom that's always carrying us, the Bhakti, that unconditional love for yourself and for others, meaning never ceasing, never ending. Om Bati Yam, Om Bati Yam, Om Bati Yam. With every repetition, you feel yourself being loved, held, and protected by the universe. Om Bati Yam, Om Bati Yam, Om Bati Yam. And as you chant with the repetition, you begin to feel that green energy overflowing within yourself, flowing from your heart chakra space, knowing that everything that's happened on your journey is preparing you for the ultimate love, and that everything happens for a reason. I invite you to just take some time now to begin to express this love outside of yourself, envisioning this green energy seeping from your skin, spreading towards your neighbor, flowing through the earth. Maybe it even reaches loved ones near and far. And allow this green energy to represent the endless and boundless love that lives in this universe. Everything on this earth thrives when it is loved and attended to, including you. But so often we seek to find this love outside of ourselves, but really we have it all along. Om Bati Yam, Om Bati Yam, Om Bati Yam. And when you're ready, I would like to invite you to come back to the space, come back to the present, and we'll take 5 breaths all together. When you're ready, nice big inhale in and out. Inhale love. Exhale fear. Inhale love. Exhale control. Inhale trust. Let go. Last big breath in and out. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I would like to invite you now to take a moment to pause this podcast and journal on how that felt for you. I actually want to give credit where credit is due. I did this chant this morning with David G on Insight Timer, and it was so good. So I felt like I just had to share it, and I hope you guys feel the same way. It's so like when you tap into the power of your ancestors and you just have this like knowing and presence, and knowing that there's been hundreds of thousands of people that have done this chant before you, and that time is like meaningless and that it's all happening in the present moment. It's just like, it can be so powerful. Every time I do this chant, I just feel like so held, so loved, so protected. So I invite you now, take a moment, pause, journal, and I will see you on the other side. Hi, my little love bugs. How are you guys feeling after that? I honestly feel just like so enlightened and so happy and grateful and thankful and loved. And in today's episode, I mentioned it at the top, but I will say it again. I wanted to talk about dating from like the yogic perspective. And I think oftentimes when it comes to dating, we're so focused on like the other person and not so much on ourselves. And I think honestly, like as I've been going through relationships and navigating dating other people and managing other people's emotions, I think the most profound like wisdom I've learned is that like you just have to listen to yourself. And so I wanted to start with the yamas. There is 5 of them. If you don't remember the 8 limbs of yoga, the yamas is the first limb, and it refers to the inner observances, or like how you should live your life. And then the niyamas are the second limb, and it refers to the outer observances, or how you should like kind of maintain yourself going forward and like in that space. So I also think it's really important because in dating, it's so easy to say like, this person wasn't being honest to me, or this person did this and this person did that. But honestly, I think dating is the ultimate tool to like get to know ourselves better. And so I wanted to start with the first yama, which is ahimsa, not causing pain. And so that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like when you're dating someone, you don't want to be judging them or making them feel bad. And sometimes it's so easy to get into these like critical thought processes, like, oh, like, why are they wearing that? Or why did they pick this restaurant? Or like this, that, and the third. And I think sometimes I even have to tell myself too, like a man will plan a date and I'd be like, I wouldn't pick that restaurant. I would pick this restaurant. But I've been telling myself recently, like, you just have to let go of control. And I think also there's so many things that we want to nitpick in our partners and people that we're dating. And honestly, no one is going to be perfect. So honestly, like, take some time and think about it. Like, is this seriously a deal breaker for me? Or is this something that I can let go of? And I think ultimately, you want to be kind to others and you want to show them compassion. I think it takes time and trust to really build up to the point where you can be like, oh, like I have some negative feedback and I understand this person well enough to know that this is how I should properly, kind of deliver the message. Sometimes, especially if you are heterosexual and you're dating men, the heterosexual men are quite interesting, but they take it a little too to heart. And I think men are very quick to like change everything about themselves in order to satisfy the person that they're dating. And it's like, I never asked for that. But sometimes that's just the way it goes. So not causing pain, non-harming, ahimsa, really think like, how can I just let the little things go? And I think that has a lot to do with like letting go of control. And I am a Scorpio that was raised by a Virgo, so I can get really nitpicky about silly things. And so dating from like a yogic perspective, it's like, take a breath and just let it go. So the second yama is truthfulness. And this is actually one of my favorite. It's like truthfulness in your mind and your words and your actions, right? And so for me, I think I have such a hard time like saying things to someone's face, but I'm very good at saying things like with my actions, right? But sometimes that's not the case. Like knowing your love languages, I think will also help you be the most truthful to yourself. My love language, which probably isn't a surprise to anyone I've dated before, is gift giving. So like I will like buy like just little things that like remind me of that person, or like just little things that I think would make them smile. And it's not even to say like, I love you, I want to marry you, but it's just to say like, I'm thinking of you and this is how I express my love. What happens when you're not truthful and you're not honest? It's like, that's when all these like miscommunications arise. I find myself often in situations in which I am someone's girlfriend and I was not aware. And I think it's because I can be very loose with my language, right? And so I start calling people babe and like baby very early on into the relationship without having the actual conversation about like, what do both of us want from this, and like where do we see this going? And so I think satya, like truthfulness, aligning your thoughts, your words, and your action, can be such a game changer when you're trying to date intentionally and date from a yogic perspective, because I think there's been plenty of opportunities, and I'm sure you can reflect on some times as well, where it's like, oh wow, if we would have had like an actual heart to heart, face to face conversation about this, it wouldn't have turned out this way. But sometimes it's just easier to show with your actions, or to like show with physical touch versus like saying things with your words. So I also think that that kind of goes into our one of our later yamas, but I also think it's a huge part of like just knowing and prioritizing kind of the friendship and the bond and the relationship before getting into other things. So Satya, truthfulness. From a yoga perspective, making sure your words and your thoughts and your actions are all aligned. And I want to say, like, yes, like we have to focus on ourselves, but also this could be a huge red flag when you're dating someone and you can tell that they don't know what they want, because they say one thing and then they do another, and then they just look so confused and sad when they're looking at you. And you're just like, oh my gosh, my poor baby. Like, he is very confused and he does not know what he's looking for. And that can also be like not a huge red flag, but you know, it's not a green flag. It definitely is not. So Satya on both parties. I mean, everything goes for both parties, but honestly, you can only control yourself. So Satya, aligning your words and your thoughts and your actions. And one thing that I do want to mention, I often do vision boards, and I actually am due to do a mid-year vision board reset, which is so funny because I like put this country on my vision board and then I ended up dating someone from that country, which was like not what I was expecting from the universe at all. And I was chatting to my friends. I was like, should I take this country off my vision board? Like, this is not what I was expecting at all. And they're like, no, you can't let him have his country. Like, you can definitely still go to the country. So that country is staying on, but life is kind of weird. Anyways, I said this to say truth in words, thoughts, and actions. Make your vision board, like manifest like what qualities you want in a guy. Like, I really want someone who's kind and compassionate and considerate. I'm realizing too through my dating experiences, I'm a bit of a like old school girl. Like, even though I am such a feminist, I want someone who's gonna like open doors for me, who's gonna pick me up, who's gonna drop me off, who's gonna text me like, did you get home safe, who's going to just do kind of like those old fashioned like gentlemanly things, because that's what I want. And you also have to be truthful with that, you know? Like, if you're dating a guy who says he's a feminist, it sounds great, but that means he's probably not as like corny or like old fashioned as you would like him to be. So all of those things are like negotiations that you don't really have to settle on. Like, you can really truly manifest the guy of your dreams. I am speaking from, I guess, hope and experience, because sometimes you manifest the wrong things and the universe has to teach you a lesson. But I definitely would recommend like making a list of like just qualities you want your next person to have, and also like just visualizing like what you want them to like make you like feel like on the inside, right? Like, do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? I had this like awful habit of like Googling guys like as I was like dating them, and it was so funny because I realized with like my last two men that I was seeing, like I just did not have the urge to do that at all. And I think it's because we just had so much like foundational trust in the relationship that I just wasn't even like, oh, like let me look at his thing, like make sure he's not lying about his job or like lying about, like I just trusted them so much that like I didn't have to do that. So someone who's like trustworthy is also really huge on my list as well. All right, number 3, Astea, non-stealing. And so it can be kind of interesting when you think about this from a dating perspective, but it's like you don't want to mislead the other person with your intentions. And sometimes it's hard because we want what we want, right? Like, the flesh has needs, the heart wants what it wants. And that kind of leads me to the next topic, which is brahmacharya. So delayed gratification, which can really help when you're dating, especially from like a yogic perspective. Like when it comes to physical intimacy, I personally like to wait until I feel like I really have feelings for this person and I really know this person and I really like this person and care about them deeply. Some people practice celibacy, some people are abstinent. Some of my friends are even still virgins, and it's your choice, right? If you meet someone the first night and you feel ready and you feel like this is your person, then go for it. If it's your person, that's not going to deter them or like infatuate them anymore. And if it isn't your person, the sex isn't going to be like a deal breaker. Sex is fun and you deserve to have fun, but I do feel like you have to wait for the alignment, right, of your body, your mind, and your soul. And sometimes it's just not there and you're not ready, and you deserve to wait until you feel ready and comfortable to like be with someone. And so when it comes to like brahmacharya and just dating is a process, right? It takes patience, it takes dedication, and it takes knowing yourself and also knowing that person and feeling like you're ready to be intimate with that person. So I'm always like a huge proponent of like waiting a little bit. I think it just makes sense, right? You want someone who's going to show up for you and show up for you consistently and be there for you, like in the good times and the bad. And sometimes you don't know when is the right time, and sometimes even I struggle with like trying to control. Like I'm the type of person, I'm gonna buy like a cute sexy outfit and be like, okay, like the next time we do XYZ, that's when we're going to do the deed. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you're ready before your plans kind of come into fruition. And I honestly just think like take your time, like delay your gratification, but also just know that like if this is your person, you shouldn't feel self-conscious going into the bedroom, and you also should feel happy and just like joyous and like more connected once the deed is done. And if you do have any like hesitation, I think that's also kind of like a signal of like maybe there's things that's happening in the relationship that just is making you like not ready and not comfortable. And then also to the same extent, like maybe it's just the universe telling you that like this is not your person and you really shouldn't share yourself in this way. So honestly, everyone has their own thoughts and opinions about this, and I'm not here to tell you like when's the right time and when's not the right time. I honestly just want to tell you to like listen to your heart, and like honestly the heart can make a fool of the mind. I don't know where I heard that from, but I really like that. And so sometimes you're going to feel a little bit foolish and that's okay. Like just take it all in stride, because your person is out there and they're coming and it's fine. You know, what happens, happens. Everyone has a past and everyone has a future, which is what makes dating like intentionally and dating with purpose just like so much more satisfying and like worthwhile, because eventually, you know, you're going to feel like you're just getting closer and more connected to your best friend. And then the last yama that I want to incorporate is apigara, or non-stealing, or sorry, not non-stealing, but like non-possession, right? And it also kind of translates to like not taking more than what one needs. And I think it's honestly like a huge tenet in like Hinduism and like other like Eastern faith traditions, but it's like the self-restraint and like avoiding being greedy of people's like time and like taking more than what they have to give and have to offer. And I think sometimes, especially with dating, when things are so new, it's so tempting to like talk to the person every day, which I think that's fine. I do think the basis of any strong relationship is that open communication, but then also just being aware of others' like schedules. Like, this is a tough pill to swallow, but not all of your partner's free time is like couple time, right? Like that person needs free time, you need free time. Like there does need to be an element of balance of like You go over to their place, they come over to your place, right? You hang out with their friends, then they hang out with your friends, right? It's a balance in everything. And so when you're dating someone, you're not dating to take, you're not dating to like ingest this person, right? Even though sometimes when I'm really feeling the feelings, I'm like, I just want to be with you all the time. I just want to melt into your skin. I just want to like be with you. Like you have to be by my side at all times because I'm obsessed with you and I just really love you. But that really goes into like the Abhigara energy, that non-covetedness, that non-stealing energy. And I also think it's a really good way to end, right? And I think maybe this is why it's the last yama. When relationships are coming to an end, it's so hard to go from like someone being your best friend that you talk to every day to like now like not talking to that person or seeing them on like a regular basis at all. And I think that's something that I also really struggle with too. Like I have never wanted to be friends with any of my exes except for one. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I just think you're such an amazing person. Like I just want you in my life. And I think that's a little bit of like stealing, you know, when things don't work out, sometimes it is the best thing just to let that person go. And that also goes into like Ishvara Pariyana, like that surrender energy, like just letting that person go and letting your love go. And if they come back to you, then great. Like they're the person that's meant for you. And if they don't, then like that's fine. But it is kind of hard to navigate like going from like a romantic relationship to like just going to a friendship, because it's like, how often do I talk to them now, and like is it appropriate for me to send this, and like I think this is funny so I want to talk to them about it. But I also realize that, you know, like their heart is still hurting, my heart is still hurting, and it's not good to kind of like pick at an open wound. You know, there does need to be some time that passes, and maybe eventually you can come back together, and maybe you don't, and maybe that person was just in your life for a reason and a season, and for you to learn a lesson. So I think, you know, even I'm very much in my single girl phase, and it's so like funny too, because my vision board at the beginning of the year, I was like, I want like a big, passionate, romantic love. And I feel like I dated like some really great guys this year, but as I head into my doctoral program, I'm like, I don't know if I have the time to date. So I'm really kind of wrestling with myself if I want to keep like love and romance on my vision board, just because I don't know if I'm going to have the bandwidth or the time to like maintain and build a new relationship as I go into my doctoral studies. So just think about it, right? Like you don't want to be in a position where you feel like you can't date, but you're still trying to date and trying to make something happen, right? Non-stealing, right? That non-stealing energy. What is realistic for you? And when do you feel like you have space in your life to like properly give that person the attention that they deserve, but then also being aware that like you're not like overstepping or like making things harder than they need to be. And so I think as relationships end and as this podcast episode comes to an end, I think if you can reflect on your relationship and be like, I am proud of the way I showed up in this relationship. I'm proud in everything that I gave and offered the other person in this relationship. It makes it so much easier to like let it go. I am a huge simp for love. I'm not gonna lie. And I feel like in some of my relationships, I felt a little taken advantage of, and like I gave a little bit too much. But that's the objective of dating, right? You want to give, you know, you want to give love. You also want to receive love, but maybe that's not in the cards for you. I don't think anything is a waste of energy, right? The more love you give, the more you will receive. And I don't think it has to come from the same person. The universe is keeping score, right? So even if you poured all of your love into this person and they weren't open to pursuing a serious relationship with you, or open to closing the relationship in a way that you felt dignified, like what you had, you just kind of have to be appreciative of like, this is what it is. I showed up and like my fullest, most authentic self, following, the yogic philosophy principles that we kind of laid out. And then you can just let it go, like you tried and you showed up for yourself. And I think also I want to share this one thing too, because it really helped me when I was dating this guy when I was 25. Like every time we went on a date, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to treat this like this is the last time I'm going to see this person. I'm just going to say everything that I need to and want to say. And I think it's also because we had a very our communication just wasn't there. He was lying to me about a lot of stuff, withholding a lot of stuff. And when you notice that in someone, it's hard, especially when you love them regardless of their flaws. But going into it with that mindset of like, okay, I just don't want to leave anything unsaid, I think that's really helped me kind of navigate relationships as I enter my late 20s, knocking on my 30. It's like, as long as you feel good about how you showed up in the relationship, it just makes it so much easier to let it go. So that concludes this episode. Let's transition into our mindful closure. Okay, my love, spirit is really moving because I paused the podcast to get my notes for mindful closure. And once again, I saw the numbers 111. So before I share our closure, I do want to read once again the meaning of the numbers 111. 111, intuition, trust your gut and listen to your heart. And I think that's honestly the most beautiful way to end when you're dating and trying to be mindful and spiritual and just dating like a yogi. Trust your gut and listen to your heart. All the things I said in this podcast are true, but also like sometimes love defies reason. And I think honestly, for our mindful closure, I wanted to ask you guys to make a list of like your meaningful and like significant relationships. I have dated a lot of guys, but I honestly think like to this point, between the ages of like 17 to 29, I had 3 really like big and significant like kind of like matters of the heart. And I invite you to like take those like relationships, no matter how many there are or how few they are, and just write down like the gratitude that you have for those people. And it doesn't have to be a matter of like, I want to rekindle or like reconcile the relationship. Sometimes it's just a matter of making peace with yourself. I think my first significant relationship was with a guy that I dated kind of on and off for 4 years. And as I reflected, there was such a huge age gap between us. Like we started dating when I was 17 and he was 25, and we ended when I was like 22 and he was like, I don't know, like 29, 30. And I felt so offended because I was like, dude, it was actually kind of gross that you dated me when I was so young. But I think there's so many like other just like beautiful, special moments about that relationship. And even in my latest one, like it wasn't a long one, but I think it was just so impactful. And I learned so many lessons in the way that I want to show up in relationships. And I think even the middle one, it was like that too. It was like an internal battle of like, do I want to marry this guy or do I want to just leave it here? And it made me realize that I didn't want to be that woman that like wasn't her fullest and authentic self. And the ending of that middle relationship actually set me on the catalyst to get my yoga certification and get my master's degree and like fulfill my dreams of like being a doctorate of psychology. And so even though that like none of these relationships have worked out, I think I just feel so blessed to like have known these men, because I think they've shaped me in a way that has just made me the person that I am today. And it's really fostered like the love that I have for myself and others. And honestly, I'm going to take some time and journal about this. It is the full moon while I'm recording this, and I think it's just going to be a really good like manifestation and releasing period. So I'm going to love you and leave you here. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys or chat with you guys next week. Love you. Bye. much for listening to another episode of the Naked Yoga Podcast. My name is Nika, and if you want more content from me, you can follow me on Instagram or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Nourish Nika. This is a completely independent podcast. Yes, I write the scripts, record, and edit the podcast all by myself. Therefore, any support you could give, like a like, a share, a comment, maybe leaving a little review on Apple Podcast or wherever you might be listening, would go a very long way and warm my little itty bitty heart. Thank you so much once again for listening, my love bug. I will see you in the next episode.